Hello! Brand new theme music, brand new year, brand new us. If you're listening to this not on Patreon, you're listening to this on January 1, 2021. If you're listening to this on Patreon, you actually listen to this on Christmas Day. Hey, here's a new Christmas gift for you. This is Season 2 of Live from the Pool House. Of course, we are coming live, as always, from the Pool House. I am your host. My name is T.L. Foster, and not my lucky mitt. As long as this earthquake doesn't hit my lucky mitt. And I am joined yet again for this season. We have not replaced her with another Aunt Viv. That is, of course, we have Sonya Ballantyne. Sonya, what's going on?
Yeah, Lee press on Ballantyne right here. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. It's a new year. There's a vaccine out for people now. Go take the vaccine if you can. And yeah, it's a whole. We have a whole new season of the show coming up, Sonya, which is like really exciting, also very terrifying, just because there's just so much.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, but we have so many cool surprises for everybody that I don't think they realize yet. Like, that's the great thing about it. It's like, oh, you guys think you know about this show? Well, wait till you see the surprises we have. And then I can confirm we will have a lot of recurring guests from last season on our show to talk about this show. So that's going to be very fun because we really loved. I don't think we actually had like a bad guest, and I've been podcasting long enough where I've done shows where we've had a bad guest. Not enough to be spicy for y'all to be like, oh, who are you talking about? Like, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to say who we had to pull along. But the great thing about this show is like we really didn't have to pull anybody's teeth to enjoy themselves on the show, and that's been super fun.
Yeah, that's been the best part of having the guests, because sometimes like there are certain shows where it just seems like the guests are just there to hang out with the hosts.
Right.
I won't mention any names, but there's like a well-known one. Anyway, but and it's just like so annoying too, because when we invite guests, we feel that they have a certain viewpoint that we might not necessarily have. Mm-hmm. So like for certain episodes, we'll reach out to certain types of people. So for the episode, the Big 4-0, we have a dancer coming on just to talk about like what it's like to be a person of color and a dancer, and how notorious that can be, and like how terrible it can be in general. So it'll be fun to talk about that. So, and we do talk about things other than race on this show, but still, it's a big part of the show.
Yeah, no, and like you said, we have a dancer. In the episode, we have Queen Latifah. We had a cosplayer who can talk about body issues and stuff like that. I do think that's one of the benefits that we've been able to give this show, and a lot of those creators. One of the things that I was very proud of last season, and I'm going to be navel gazy, not English speaking, of course, but nasal gazy is like we were able to give a lot of creators who may not have gotten an opportunity to have their voice in these kind of outlets, to give them those outlets, and that's something that I'm very proud of, and that's something that we are not straying away from. This year we're going to try to do that. One of the things I definitely wanted to do was get more creators of color on these episodes, and I think we do. And I think another thing that was really important to me, more women of color, which we definitely did. Like, that's something that I'm very, very proud of doing that. So this is going to be a really, really fun season, and like I say always, I wouldn't imagine doing it with anybody else but Sonya Ballantyne, who just recently celebrated her birthday.
Yeah, we did it on stream.
We did it on stream. we played.
And everybody killed my boyfriend first. It was great.
Like every time it was like they would just be like just dead. It's like, oh well, okay.
That's terrible.
That's terrible. But yeah, so is there anything else you want to talk about season 1 before we get right into season 2?
Well, I'm really surprised by like, again, I mentioned when we were talking about it before, but like I've always assumed that the first season sucks because I watch a lot of Star Trek, and because of that, I was going into our first season of Pool House thinking that like we weren't gonna have a good time, and there like every single episode we did was a great time. Like, it was so much fun to rewatch the episodes. And, like, I'm really looking forward to this season just because a lot of the episodes I really, really like are in this season. So, here's hoping, like, we get a few laughs, maybe get a few 2-hour episodes out of this. We'll see what happens.
I mean, more than likely, we are definitely probably going to get some 2 hours. Like, there's some episodes where we're going to go really into it. I know, well, shoot, we have an episode coming up that we like under the, like, to keep you guys completely under the loop, like, we've already recorded. That was already like an hour and a half, and it would have been longer if I just didn't have to go do another recording. Like, so
yeah, we recorded a bonus episode and our main episode with that conversation. So it was pretty fun.
It was definitely pretty fun. So yeah, let's get into it. Season 2, episode 1. Sonya, go ahead and break us down.
So, as TL said, we are watching Season 2, Episode 1, Did the Earth Move for You?, which first aired September the 9th, 1991. This episode was directed by Ellen Falcon, who, under the Falcon name and her Gittleson, I think is how you pronounce it, name, has directed a wide variety of TV sitcoms, including Roseanne and Friends. This episode was written by Winifred Hervey, and in this episode, don't be dissing my hair, which that's a goal I really like. That's a phrase I'm going to take for the rest of my life from now on.
So we talked about Jeff Melman before in directing episodes, because Jeff Melman directs a lot of episodes in season 1. I think outside of the pilot and the second episode, they're all Jeff Melman. But Ellen Falcon is going to be our primary director for the show outside of like 1 or 2 episodes. So this is very important because, like, we actually, and I think structurally how the show is shot and how the show is remembered, like you said, season 2 is the one where everybody's like, oh yeah, I remember this episode. I think that is because of Ellen Falcon's, like, direction in these episodes, because they are such a standpoint of hers. And like I said, this is the first time where you kind of get that, that look of how she is going to look at this show.
Yeah, and this season is the start of the new set, which, according to Wikipedia, the kitchen and living room set of the Banks mansion, which is where most of the scenes are shot, was rebuilt to be larger and more contemporary as opposed to the more formal style of the first season. They were connected by an archway, allowing scenes to be shot continuously between the sets. And this episode is when we start to see the characters fully fleshed out as they will be for the rest of the series, particularly Jeffrey, who does a really good version of Mac the Knife, but with the lyrics changed to reflect him meeting Arnold Schwarzenegger. So I really like that scene.
Yeah. When I think of this, it was either last season, it was either Nikki or Funky, like one of them was saying, like, where's the old? I want to say it was Nikki when we were talking about the Christmas episode last year, where Nikki was like, "Well, where's the old set?" And like this is it. Like, now we finally got the set that everyone's been looking for.
Yeah, exactly. Which I think is, like, a really cool, because the way the set on the first season worked is that the kitchen has, like, a tiny hallway that leads into the main living room and into the dining room. And I think they just did away with the whole thing where they had the dining room and the kitchenette dining room and the kitchen in the same place, so they could have that continuous look of one stage. So I really love that. And this episode is the famous earthquake episode where, which I had to look into because I did not know that basements in California were a thing, just because of earthquakes, right?
Right.
So is the biggest reason why houses are built with basements in areas such as Colorado and the Northeast is to get the footings for the house below the frost line, which can be like 3 feet or 4 feet down. So the logic is that if you're digging that deep, why not put in a floor and use the space?
Right.
So there's no danger for frost in much of California, so foundation footings don't have to be nearly that deep. But many houses in California are built into hillsides and have the opportunity for at least a half basement. So the one that Will and Kathleen end up getting trapped in kind of looks like a half basement. So But even if a house has a basement like this, there's often no stairs connecting this space to the main part of the house because stairs are expensive and take up space. And most California houses are built to maximize profit.
Right.
So it's one of those like things because I was like, why would you want a basement in a geologically unstable place? Like I'm just thinking about the movie Volcano particularly, where they were like, why would you build a subway in a geologically unstable place where the lava had a place to flow freely, basically.
Right. Well, and to me, it's always weird because, like, so I've lived in the South and on the East Coast my whole life, so I've never dealt with a earthquake at all, right? It is such a foreign idea to me. Even the basement is a foreign idea because, like, I've always lived below sea level. Like, I'm used to, like, if we have a basement and there's a hurricane, like, we're kind of just boned because, like, that's how you end up getting like flooded in. But I don't know, it's just like it's always been weird to me, like the whole like aspect of like, oh hey, like here's like, here's a subterranean room where all your stuff is.
Yeah, like we on the reserve where I live, a lot of the houses come in prefabricated. So you build the foundation on like a gravel foundation with like a wood part that keeps it off the ground, and the houses just slide on top of there. So like usually a lot of houses back home don't have basements, and so I thought that only the richest people were allowed to have basements, and I always wanted one. Like
Right.
even the people who had my neighbor back home, they have a basement, but the basement is actually built above ground because of like frost and the idea of having to put it on its own foundation. So it's a weird house. But yeah,
Right.
like basements to me, weird. I don't understand. They always smell moldy and gross too.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, this episode they're going to the People's Choice Awards.
Yeah. Real quick before we go further, let's talk a little bit about Kathleen. Now, Kathleen is played by Tisha Campbell, who Tisha Campbell, for most people will know her from as their girlfriend of Martin, Gina, from the hit show Martin. But Tisha Campbell had been acting for a while. She was one of the background singers in Little Shop of Horrors. Like that's I think the first time I saw her.
Yeah.
So what's funny is both her and the girl who would go on to play Pam, they both are singers in Little Shop of Horrors, which is like when my sister became a fan of that movie. My sister, she did musical theater, so she became a fan of that movie before I did. And then we would watch it. I was like, oh, wait, what? And then she was also in School Days. She was in House Party. I think she's in all 3 House Party movies.
Yeah, I just looking up her thing. She is in all 3 House Parties. And also in Homeward Bound, too. Lost in San Francisco.
Did I watch Homeward? I had to have watched Homeward Bound, too. But she also did A Different World around the same time. She did a couple of Different World. She's just kind of like black television royalty. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, she's always been like, to me, Tisha Campbell's like, always been like I've had a crush on Tisha Campbell since I could remember having a crush on anybody. And she's just one of those, which is weird because like she's like the same age as my mom, I believe.
She's 52.
Yeah, okay, no, she's like a little bit younger than my mom, like 3 or 4 years younger than my mom. But like I said, she's my mom's age. But I always just like every time I've seen her, it's like, oh, that's just Tisha Campbell. Like that's just like the girl. Like of course, like that's like what the dream girl is. So it's always great when I see her. And the thing is, what's great about Tisha Campbell, and I think she does a really good job in this episode. She's just so funny and quick witted. And like I'm sorry, not only do I love like in this show, especially when they have black women on here, they've been black women. Like asterisk, it's like kind of like a California black woman, but like at some points in this episode, you just hear her break, and she's just New York, like oh, and I love that. I love like it's just like that northern accent stuff. Like it's just like instantly, I'm like, yes, I love all that, and for her to like portray that and like put it through, it's always so good.
Well, and she was the lead character on Martin, and like wasn't she the one that also accused him of like
No,
intolerable like was that her?
that was no, it was Tanisha Arnold,
Oh.
who was the one who had the issues with Martin.
Weird, it's weird. Yeah, like, cause I'm just like, let's see, hold on. Television, she starred as Gina Waters Payne in the Fox comedy series Martin from 92 to 97. Yeah. And she looks really good. Like, I'm just looking at a most recent picture of her. She looks great.
Yeah,
Wow.
she actually did a sitcom after Martin that ran for a while with Damon Williams,
Mm-hmm.
called My Wife and Kids, which was yet another just really really good just sitcom.
Oh, it was her. Look, in November 96, Campbell left the Fox series Martin
Okay.
during its final season, citing intolerable working conditions. In January 97, Campbell filed a lawsuit against co-star Martin Lawrence on the counts of sexual harassment and abuse both on and off the set. By April 97, Campbell had settled the lawsuit and returned to appear in the last 2 episodes of the series.
Okay. I must have got it mixed
So,
up. So yeah, I apologize about that. But
oh
yeah.
no, that's fine. But
Yeah.
yeah, like it seems like she is pretty cool in this episode because like she is one of those characters that like could easily fall by the wayside because you're like she's one of Will's girlfriends. And
Right.
she's like a memorable character. I just love how she is um she's so cool in this episode when she finally when the hair comes off basically so
Right.
when she's not trying to be so cutesy and stuff, and I just love that. Like, and so I really love the clothes this episode, particularly the dress that she's gonna wear for the People's Choice Awards, and the hairstyles are really cool. Like I love Vivian's hair, I love Kathleen's hair before Will throws her wig, and like I don't know if that's a wig or just a piece. I don't know. I don't know very much about wigs. So
I don't either. I unfortunately, this would be a great episode. Like, I wish we would have had a guest, only because I've never done anything with hair pieces. I thought about it though. I thought about doing the hairpiece thing, like doing a male wig. I have looked it up, just because like I think it would be kind of cool to do that,
oh,
especially because I don't have any hair. Like, what if I just like had like again like one of our guests, like what if I just came in with like Nikki hair? Because like Nikki's
oh,
hair is like very it's very different, not different in like a bad way, but like he has hair and he's able to style it. Like what if I came in and I just had like this weird kid in like this weird flat top that had hair
or a
with
Jerry curl, like a Coming to America type look.
yeah, a Jerry curl or like a conch, like that would be nuts. Like I mean it would be weird, but yeah, it would be definitely fun.
Oh man, but I love the sunglasses that Will's wearing to the People's Choice Awards. Those look pretty cool. Like his outfit is just on point this episode. Everybody is eventually going to the People's Choice Awards. Jeffrey is not going initially because the running theme of this season is Phil taking advantage of Jeffrey. And forgetting that he is also a part of the family that he's the part of the family that cooks and cleans up after them. And I just love that he is becoming more sassy this season. I really love that. I also love the dynamic between him and Will. There's a scene at the beginning of the episode where he's talking to his mother and he says, "I'm not making any extra work for Jeffrey," and he throws the can behind him just as Jeffrey's coming and he catches it. I just love that.
Yeah,
It's
no,
very
it's
cute.
definitely fun. I did want to ask, have you ever? So one of the things like this show is like, how do you deal with like puppy love and young love and stuff like that? And as when the episode starts, we do see, Will and Kathleen do the whole, you hang up type deal. And I was wondering, like, when you were younger, or does it happen now? Like, have you ever been to that point where you're just like, oh, I'm just so infatuated with the person that I'm with right now, or that I potentially am with?
I don't know if I've ever done that, just because, in all honesty, I think the first time I've ever been in love for real has been recently.
Mm-hmm.
And I am too grown up to be infatuated with people just because I'm like, I have no time. But back when I was like probably like pretty young, like my very, very first boyfriend, who is this boy named Jeff, I think I was infatuated with him, and I demanded that he basically live up to all my expectations of what a boyfriend was supposed to be. So for example, like I would make him hold my hand for 2 hours straight. Stuff like that. Well, like probably not that long, but like
right.
we were both in like grade 6, so I'm like, okay, this is what girlfriends and boyfriends are supposed to do. So I was one of those mean, bossy girlfriends, and I've never like, I don't know if I've ever been infatuated. Like, I think the most I've ever done is like, one thing I used to do when I really liked a guy is if I found out he liked something, I would get interested in it just to like have something to talk to him about. So for example, I had a massive crush on this guy I used to work with named Steven, who was obsessed with Henry Rollins. So I read all of Henry Rollins' books. And I ended up like really, really liking Henry Rollins.
Yeah, but it's like that's not a bad trade off. It's like I could see like if he was like, oh, I'm really into like Stephen Miller or like or like who somebody else is really bad. Like oh yeah, I love Ben Shapiro, and then you're like, I guess I have to watch Ben Shapiro videos. Like I understand that being like, that's awful. But like Henry Rollins, like you said, Henry Rollins is a great orator, and like, yeah,
he's a good writer too. Like I really enjoyed some of his stuff, but I've never like, I think the closest I've ever been to like a Will and Kathleen situation is probably when I was like content warning, like abuse here, but like I had an abusive relationship, and that was where the infatuations kind of saved me, because, or kind of like damned me in a way, because like I love them, and so I was putting up with stuff I probably shouldn't have put up with.
Right.
And like in this case, it's more of like a youthful thing where they just haven't grown up a lot, if that makes sense, and they're both feeding off of each other. Right. If that makes sense. And so I really love that. I love it that it's from the boy's perspective. That's my favorite part. Like, because usually when they do storylines like this, it's from the girl's perspective, and she's like portrayed as like sad and like a lonely girl, and like Will is just as infatuated with her as she is, and I love that. Yeah,
I do think like, so I am definitely like this problem, because I just get like because of my impulsive nature and me being an impulsive nerd, like when I fall for something, I fall for something, right? So I have been like the guy who would be like, and I do the walk and talk thing. Like I don't just do that if I'm talking to like a woman I like or a partner that I'd be interested in, right? I do that regardless. Like if I talk to my dad and my aunt and uncles, like I like to walk and talk because that's just me. But then like, yeah, like if it's somebody, like I do the whole cheesing thing on the phone and like get really nervous when everybody else is around, because like, I don't know, it's just like a thing of like, I love being in that moment, and it's just like that thing of like, when you're in infatuation, like that whole like having that joy of like, oh hey, I'm in the moment, right? Like it's like satisfaction, or it's just like, oh here it is. It's like eating ice cream, but you don't gain any weight from eating ice cream, right? Like that's kind of how I see it. So I've definitely been like Will and Kathleen in that situation, and like you.
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I was like you said, it is to a detriment, because like, especially like early on, you don't know who this person is, right?
Yeah, that's the part that like I think it's because I'm older. I'm able to see it from Uncle Phil and Fib's perspective, where it's just like, you don't know each other. Like, you just met and you're saying that you're going to plan to get married and stuff. And I'm like, I think it has a lot to do with that idea, because I've never been the person who has been, the initial parts of a relationship are the parts I don't like. Just because they are, like, it feels so fleeting and so fake to me.
Yeah.
Like, if I had my way, we would be married like 50 years on, and that would be our relationship. Like, I prefer that because it seems more real. And with this type of infatuation, like, I've had this type of infatuation with like crushes. Like, that's about the extent of it. Like, let me think. Like, I'm just trying to think about who I've had crushes on where I treated them like they were like God's gift to me. Like, I think the only time I've ever acted this way is probably when I met Shawn Michaels. So, Like, and not that I was infatuated with him, but I've always had a crush on him since I was a little girl.
Right.
And when I met him, I was just like giggly and like blushing and like all happy and stuff. So I think that's the closest I've ever been to being like gaga over some dude.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think like, and usually like if it's in person, like I don't get that way. I can like pull the cool character, but I guess it's your vulnerability moment, right? When you're able to get yourself just vulnerable, it's just one of those things. And like I don't see, like you said, it can be a negative if you go too far or if you don't know the person. But I also look at it as like it can also be a positive. Like I'm just thinking of like I know friends who I've been to their weddings who break down and cry when they see their wives walk through, right?
Which is really sweet. Like, I love that type of thing. Because I think this episode is good just for that it's the man being vulnerable.
Right.
Like, and I think that's, like, because this was one thing that I really liked about, I don't know if this episode kind of negates his relationship with Kayla from season 1. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it does, just because like she was a little bit older and they liked each other for different reasons. But like I think this is Will's first first time he's ever dating somebody, not just because they're beautiful, but because of how they make him feel.
Right.
If that makes sense.
No,
I keep saying that. Sorry. Like
I mean that's my go-to line always, right? But I think it's important because the thing that we get from Will, especially in this episode, but especially in this season, and it's just that this is Will's chance to grow. As much as the first season was like him integrating into the family, like now he's on equal footing with the family. We don't have to we're getting out of that weird growing pains. Is how does Will Smith grow? You know, from this kid from Philadelphia now being this kid in Los Angeles, which is relationships. And I think the difference between this relationship and the relationship we had with Kayla was someone who had her own agency, who had built herself up. Like he's actually dating somebody, one, who is his age, which is like, that's the thing we should talk about. But like, two, somebody who is more
his
equal.
Yeah, like more just having fun.
Right.
Yeah,
right. More of it's just like you said, there's maturity equal. So it is someone where he is able to be a little bit more goofy, and they can act like teenagers because they are teenagers.
Yeah, like that's something like because the part that I thought that was pretty like pretty something that I thought would never be something else on another show was when they're having dinner together with the family and they start making out really, really aggressively. And Phil, like, tells them, okay, we gotta talk about this. And they go in there, and, like, you can tell that they're gonna talk about sex. Which I really enjoy, because, like, they're doing it the awkward way. Right. And until finally Phil says, like, don't come around here with no babies. I just love that. Like, that's the kind of discussion my dad would have with me if I was getting this attached to a guy when I was, like, Will's age. Right. Like, for lack of a better term, lack of a better age, we'll just say he's 16.
Yeah, I mean, I think he really is 16 in this, season.
He's pretty young because he gets his car. He gets his car later in the series. So, but it's something funny to me because there's a bigger societal thing at play by telling them not to have children. If that makes sense, like, because it's something that I keep saying that. I'm sorry. It's my verbal tick, but like he knows that Will and Kathleen are probably, if they haven't already, they're going to have sex. Right. And he's just telling them, like, okay, don't have children. Right. Don't make me a father. Basically. I don't know why he's saying, like, he wouldn't want to be a father. But they are getting pretty serious too fast. And I love that line that Vivian tells them where they're like, what you're talking about demands commitment. And she's right. Like, how committed can you be to somebody when you're 16? Right. And I know that there's people who have done that, but like, I think that is the exception, not the rule.
It definitely is. Like, I mean, like I said, without even you having to go back through, the trauma that you went through. Like, I just think of the women that I was attracted to at 16. I remember, like, I remembered one girl, like, I was sort of attracted to at 16, and then we split off, and then, like, at some point, I actually like. She asked me to take her to prom, but knew she was talking to somebody else, and it was just like a whole situation of just like myself, just like I know that I wasn't ready for anything like that at that age. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just know like that wasn't just for me. And like I couldn't imagine being like getting a 16-year-old and being like, "All right, now I want you to live your full life because like that's just so much."
Yeah, like there was a lot of people when I was younger who got pregnant very very young.
Mm.
And I just turned 35 and I cannot imagine being Will's age with a kid. That's
Right.
terrifying to me because I'm like I only now feel like I'm in a place where I can do that on my own without having to rely on anybody.
Right.
But it's still like I'm kind of glad I never had this type of infatuation because I'm like where the hell would I be if this happened? Like, because Will and Kathleen's relationship is the type of thing from Boy Meets World where she'll give up going to, like, some Ivy League school to be with her douchey, like, childhood love.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, she's going to ruin her life, basically, because
Right.
she loves some idiot. So, I'm just mentioning Boy Meets World because I never, like, I've seen it, but I'm like, I always hated that part where girls have to give up their
Agency.
goals and their agency to be with the lead character.
Right. Well, and like that's the thing that kind of sucks is like when they do that, where it is like, oh hey, like you're a grown ass adult, you're a grown ass woman, you throw all that away so you can go follow some dude. But that's like, I mean, that's unfortunately like what patriarchal systems do to us is that exact same thing, and that's what kind of sucks.
Well, in this episode, I think they deal accurately with what these kinds of excuse me, sorry.
Yeah.
I'll pause that for a second. This episode looks at what a realistic relationship like this would like. It burns out really, really fast.
Right.
And I love that. Like it's very cute, and it's like I love that they put them in a situation where they realize that they don't know each other as well as they think they do.
Yeah.
Which is really cute. Like, because I love that. Like, he doesn't know that she... Like, this is my favorite episode because it gives me something I always wanted to show. That women don't automatically come out of the house looking like Kathleen does.
Yes.
Like, I love that episode. I love this episode for that reason. Because, like, boys often assume at Will's age that all women look like this all of the time.
Well, it's the shitty thing in... We've been in internet groups for a while now, but it's the shitty thing where you always see dudes like, "Oh, you look perfect without makeup." Doing a thing where it's like, "Oh, well, women are naturally just spring up," and I want to make sure I'm not. In no means am I not saying that because I do think that whether you wear makeup or not, blah 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 blah, right, like. Every shitty dude's gonna tell you that too, but I honestly understand as well. Like her dressing up like that, like it may have been to impress Will a little bit, but her wearing makeup, her wearing those extensions, her wearing those press-ons was for her as well. And and as someone like, I think it really hit me during this quarantine where I've gone through like shaving my beard like completely off and trimming it and everything like that. It's like. Though I remember my roommate's like, "Well, why are you shaving your beard? Like, no one's going to see your beard." It's like, yeah, but I don't like where it was, so I want it gone. Or if I want it to be full, I want it to be full. If I want to wear like this really cool shirt, like I'm going to buy it. If I want to buy these, Paul George shoes, and it's just that agency of like, no, I'm an adult as well, or I am a person as well, and even though these things are commonly used to coerce
Attract somebody.
coerce or attract somebody else. It can't just be like this how I feel. Like my buddy Zoe, like she streams and she does her makeup tutorials. Like she doesn't have anywhere to go, but that's what she wants to do. That makes her feel better. So I'm just like, yo, I get it. Like, and it makes complete sense to me now.
Did you ever have, like, as a boy, did you ever, as a teenager, think that girls automatically, like, come out of the house looking like that?
No, because I have two sisters.
Okay.
I'm so lucky because my sisters, in the age disparity, like, my two sisters are very close in age. So my sister Nikita, she is only, like, 10 months younger than I am.
Mm-hmm.
And then my sister Rashonda is a year and 8 months younger than I am. So they are so much closer in age. I've been around women who've done like they've never had to do wigs because like my sisters usually use like weave when she used to get her hair braid, and my sister Nikita used to always keep her hair short, right? But I have been around women with wigs. I have been around women who wear makeup, living. I I think what happens is a lot of guys like try their best not to be around their mothers or whatever when they're younger, especially like when you see guys who go into like in position to tell stories, like they're not usually around their moms and stuff, so they don't think of it. Or you think of like your mom's like an abnormality, right? Like your mom is like, oh, that's my mom, like of course, blah 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 blah. But just having been contemporary around women, haven't had conversations with women, I've just never, to me, it's never not been a thing where it's like, okay, like, and I always like, I never even think like the makeup thing is like a too far gone thing. Like when I see women with makeup, I'm like, okay, like I get what you're doing, but I don't see like it. There's like, I guess that's weird. Like I don't see a difference between when women do wear makeup and they don't, because like it's still the same person. It's just kind of like a highlighted version of themselves. If that makes any sense.
Well, there's an episode later in, like, way down the line where Lisa, when Will and Lisa are about to get married and they finally, like, spend a few evenings together, where Lisa lets her hair down and she has, like, acne medication on her face and she's wearing, like, I think a hair wrap and, like, a big jersey because she's going to bed, right?
Right.
And Will freaks out. And, like, Lisa's like, so you want me to be the mother to 6 children, work a 6-figure job, keep house, and look beautiful 24 hours a day? And Will's like, too much? So it's just like, and that's like Will, I guess because Will has grown up around a woman who probably didn't care about that stuff and didn't like because his mom is beautiful and like all this other stuff, but she was always like working, I imagine. And so he never really saw her in the capacity of like going out on dates or something.
Right.
And so he probably has this idea of women as like these dolls. So I think it's just like the standard like teenage boy type thing.
Right.
Because I really love how surprised he is that she's a black woman and doesn't have green eyes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there are a lot of like black people, especially light-skinned black people that have green eyes just naturally occurring. But that's, like I said, that's, to me, it's always so weird.
Yeah. Well, and she, like, it just makes me laugh, though, because it's like, she doesn't have the coloring for somebody who has green eyes, because like, you know how sometimes like people suit, like, well, I don't want to say she doesn't suit it, but like when I wore purple contacts, when I have light colored eyes, I look weird. Like it's not like, it's just because I have the coloring for dark eyes. And so when people who have that coloring put in colored contacts, it always looks a little bit off. And so it made me laugh when he was like freaking out over her hair, over her eyes. I think she was also wearing, they don't show it, but she was also wearing probably like a cap for her teeth. Mm-hmm. Like one of those like a retainer? Like a bridge type thing. I can't remember what they call them.
Yeah,
but like,
a
retainer. Make her teeth look straight.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just really funny to me because I'm like, are you gonna freak out if she accidentally farted in front of you too? Like, it was just so bizarre to me because I'm like, do you not think of her as a human being? Like, so, what the hell?
That's the thing that I always, like, that always freaks me out about that. It's just like, do you guys not think that women are people? And that's why, it's always like when I hear people talk about like, oh, I can't believe, like, oh, I waited so long to fart, and it's just like, I what? Like, it's always weird to me.
Well, and it's so funny in this episode too, because like, what was it? In the last 3 hours, I've seen you take out your eyeballs, your hair, your teeth, and your fingernails. Like, what else can I get on your body that I can get at the mall? And I'm like, you would know, like, her nails don't naturally grow that long, and her, you've had a retainer probably, Will. Like, what the hell are you freaking out about? Like, it was
they literally shot episodes with him with the retainer.
Yeah, and it's just so stupid to me because I'm like, he's just driving me nuts this episode because I'm like, maybe it's because I'm a girl and I know all the girl like rigmarole rather, and like she's obviously trying to look cute for him too somewhere, and like there's even a scene where he pulls off her hair and she said, "I just wanted to look extra special for you tonight," which is sweet. But there, one of my favorite scenes in this episode though, to show how obsessed Will is with Kathleen, is he walks into the room wearing a shirt with her face on it. Like, it's at the beginning of the episode, and it just made me laugh, because it was, like, obviously one of those, like, mall, glamour photos of her. So, it's really stupid. I'm just like, aw. Like, it's kind of sweet, and it's kind of annoying at the same time as well.
Right, no, absolutely.
But, so, they are heading to the People's Choice Awards when an earthquake hits. And, Jeffrey and Hillary, Carlton, and Ashley are trapped on the freeway. Uncle Phil and Aunt Vivian are trapped at his offices downtown. And Will and Kathleen are trapped in the basement of the Banks mansion. And we find out that Will has never experienced an earthquake.
Yeah, so, like I said before, I've never done an
I have
earthquake.
not either. I've always wanted to.
Really? Always wanted to?
Yeah. Well, because when we have earthquakes here in Canada, we don't have them here because we're on the Canadian Shield, which is like a huge rock, so we're like solid as hell. But we have earthquakes in BC, which is like on the Pacific coast.
Right.
And every time I go to BC, I pray for an earthquake because I really, really want to experience one. Mostly because of this episode too. So, but, yeah. And it's just like it's just so cool to me because I watch videos to see what it's like, but it doesn't show you what it's like. Like, cause I just want to see what it's like. That's all I want to do.
Yeah, I think like so Nikki's gonna be joining us in like a couple episodes. I think that's like one of the first things we have to ask. We have to ask him. Cause I think
what's an earthquake like?
Yeah, he's gonna be our first like full-on West Coaster, right? That we'll have on the show, like from California, from Los Angeles.
If has ever gone through an earthquake.
I'm pretty sure he has. Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll ask him when we see him.
We'll definitely have to ask him when we see him. We're gonna get to the bottom of earthquake gate.
For people from the center of the continents.
The West Coast. Learn how the earth shakes. Like if this was a hurricane, I can give you all experiences about hurricanes.
Tornado, typhoon, I can do the same thing.
Yeah, it's just like earthquakes. It's just something that we don't have to really deal with. That's gotta be terrifying. Like being in a basement is terrifying, just because like with the earthquake, I mean, the earth is literally shaking and then stuff falling. I think that's the only thing that's like scary to me is like stuff is going to fall. So I don't know how afraid I would be of an earthquake, just because like it's so fast, right?
Yeah, like because the part that scared me was Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv being in the multi-floor office skyscraper during an earthquake. That part scared me because I'm like, holy crap! What would the building do? Would it sway? Are you gonna fall over? Like, right. I think that was the part that scared me the most, was them in that like high rise.
Well, and I think like I have vertigo sometimes, so like I don't know if it's just like having vertigo. I don't know. Like it's so we should definitely ask one of our West Coasters because like now I'm
make a note of it. Yeah,
I'm more intrigued about this earthquake thing.
Well, once COVID's over, we'll go stay in the Fresh Prince house if it's still on Airbnb and hope and pray for an earthquake.
Right.
But was it so Will and Kathleen are trapped in the basement, which holds all of Will's stuff that he brought from Philly to ease his homesickness whenever he needs to. They're down there to find his lucky mitt so that he can get it signed by
Kirby Smith.
Willie Mays?
Kirby Smith.
Who?
Kirby,
okay, yeah.
Yeah, Kirby Smith he was a baseball player for the Minnesota Twins. He's a really good baseball player.
And he's got a tiny little baseball glove, which is adorable. He also finds his teddy. I didn't get the Teddy Jam reference. Do you know that?
Oh, so it's like I think it's just him doing the jam, but I think it was like because it was supposed to be like a Teddy Ruxpin. Like so with Teddy Ruxpins, you would be able to put in the like a cassette tape. Kids, a cassette tape is what we used to listen to music when we were babies. So you'd put in the cassette tape and it would play music, and it would Teddy Robson would like basically sing the music to you. Did you ever have one of those? Like,
I had one. Like,
okay,
I think I didn't have one, but I know of them. Yeah.
Okay, because I had one. So when I was in the Netherlands, we had one, and then I think when we were a little bit older, my mom had got like a cassette tape that had Mariah Carey's Fantasy. So like we were like me and my sister would be like kids. It would be listening to this toy. That'd be like sweet, sweet fantasy. Like it was just so great. And then like seeing this toy sing the do the like the old dirty bastard, me and Mariah. Like it's just like that's always so fun.
Oh my god, we got please somebody, if you're listening, send us one of those toys, please.
Absolutely.
I really want to play it. Oh, but there's a table down there for some reason. Apparently, in the basement, there's a really, really hardcore table, and Will's hiding under it when we cut back from the commercial, clutching his teddy bear. Kathleen, who has been through a few earthquakes, is already like calm, ready to. She needs to go. They need to find out if anything is broken or if gas line is broken. I'm not sure. Like it's some sort of emergency. We'll find out. But she finds out that the door is jammed from the outside, and Will starts to have a panic attack. So, which is understandable because like I would have a panic attack too, because this is in the days before cell phones,
Right.
and you don't know where everybody is. That was the part that really freaked me out, because I'm like, all right, this is the time where like the only people who have a phone are Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv at the office, because they have the landline. Jeffrey and the kids have the car phone,
Right.
but Will and Kathleen have nothing and just have to wait.
Yeah, it's definitely like that's definitely a thing of like, what do you do in this situation, because you can't really like run out. Because you're stuck in, and like you said, there's no really way of like being able to reach somebody either. It's definitely that's definitely has to be scary.
Well, since you mentioned hurricanes, during hurricanes, like during emergency like shelters in place, does your cell phone still work?
I can actually speak on this because like. So 3 or 4 years ago, I was living with Alfred, a guy who does a lot of our back end stuff, Alfred Confiato. You should definitely follow him.
Woo!
So I was living with Alfred, was during one of the really bad storms, and we actually lost power for a good 3 or 4 days. No, not 3 or 4 days, 3 or 4 weeks. Power was out for a while. And it was to the point where I would actually have to go to my car and charge my phone in my car because we had no power. Like I was still able to get like cell data out, but I would have to literally go to my car to charge it. Like it was just so bad. Like the streets were flooded, which like you learn how people like, because like the power lines were down, so there was no street lights. And what's supposed to happen is when there's no street lights, every stop light is like a 4-way stop.
Mm-hmm.
But people don't treat it like that. People just treat it like one-way thing. So it was very like scary dealing with that. So dealing with the natural disaster without really any like good means to communicate. Like we would have to go. Like I remember when we were able to go to the first gas station, when the gas station was like finally able to get power, it was just like a mob scene of people just going to the gas station. Like that
scene from The Simpsons, basically.
Yeah, basically.
Hurricane Chow.
Yeah, basically just to get like water and food, you know, like if you didn't stock up. So it was definitely a lot.
The only natural disaster I've ever been through was a forest fire. So for people who don't know, my home community is in the center of the Boreal Forest in the middle of northern Manitoba. And every summer we call it the fire season because forest fires are a constant thing up there, especially now with global warming. And when my sister was, I think, about 2 and I was about 4, there was a huge forest fire that was coming to our reserve. Like the wind was blowing it our way and we had to evacuate. I remember it being terrifying because the one big image from that time I remember is going outside and the sky was lit up red The whole like you couldn't see through the smoke. Everything was red, and it was like being in Mordor. Basically, it was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen and experienced. And it was also terrible because we had to let all our pets go because we couldn't take them with us, and that was the worst part. And like I was demanding my dad take our dogs with us, and he was like, "No, we can't. There's no room in them for them in the car." I was like clutching them. He pried them out of my arms, and we left. And then when we came back, the dogs were okay. But still, I was so pissed with my father.
No, I definitely get that. I think, and yeah, we've always, because like when I was growing up, we would always have to, like we would always evacuate, because like that wasn't my first hurricane. Like living in Jacksonville, you get we live in a coast city, so we get hurricanes like every 2 or 3 years. We would get a hurricane. But normally what we would do is my family would go to Atlanta, where my aunt lived at, because that was like the easiest way to evacuate to. And yeah, that was just one. I don't know. No, I do know, because I was working and I couldn't evacuate. And it was one of the things where it's like, I was like, oh, well, I won't be too bad. And it really was. But I did get to watch, what's that? Pop Star Never Start Popping during that time period. Good movie. Love that movie.
Oh my gosh. Well, I wonder, I think when we do get someone from the West Coast, what do they do in particularly bad earthquakes? I guess the infrastructure is there so that it's not that big of a deal. But I imagine, it must be a big deal if something, maybe... I don't know the Richter scale incredibly, but I guess anything over, a 6.5 must be bad. I know they mentioned it in Independence Day, but I'm I don't know the Richter scale, so it's hard to gauge exactly what's terrible. Because I imagine if we went through, a little baby earthquake, we would freak out about it.
Right.
So it's just, crazy. But, yeah, there's a scene where Kathleen is taking orange juice from the freezer, and man, did that take me back, because I used to eat that stuff like it was ice, it was like an icy pop or something.
Oh, the concentrate frozen juices. Man, there's a generation of kids who don't know, they have to not know what that is anymore, right?
I'm not sure. I know that they still sell those ones in the cans that you you crunch up a little bit and dunk them in water and give them a stir. Yeah, I used to eat them like they were freaking popsicles.
I used to do that as well. And I don't know, I think of it it's weird that family has it, because I think of stuff like that, or Kool-Aid, that's struggle food. When we were in the struggle for real. And that's what we would do.
But even when you're rich, you still have the struggle food. Because I have, I'm not rich, but I am, we are in a good place. And we still have the food sometimes that we eat, that we used to eat when we were kids, that was basically the bottom of the barrel in terms of food safety. So it's we have the cans of Spam and stuff that we still eat occasionally, because sometimes you get a hankering for it. And so, but it's still weird to me that they have a freezer. I don't know, a freezer just seems I don't know if rich people should have freezers, because that always seems like a native thing to me. We had a freezer because you had to store up meats and stuff. I don't know. Do rich people have freezers? Let us know.
Oh, they do. Just to get your fancy your fancy
those
meat.
Tartars or whatever. I don't know.
I don't know. I have a brisket, and we have a brisket in my freezer. That it's we've just been sitting there, and I wish we had a bigger freezer, because it's a huge brisket, and I wish we had a bigger freezer so we could put the brisket in there.
Now you're making me hungry, damn it. But it's I just don't know why they have a freezer. It's just weird to me. I guess because Jeffrey probably uses it or something. But
yeah,
so Kathleen and Will start to realize that they are getting on each other's nerves. I think it starts with Will throwing Kathleen's hair into the corner, and also when she eats all his breath mints. And he starts singing a song about her not being a real person, which is based on Darling Nikki by Prince, which I didn't get until I was 20 years old.
Oh yeah, Darling Nikki, the filthiest Prince song. That song is horny. That's the only way to explain that song. It's oh no, you just horny. Like, it's a very horny song.
Well, they also have like Prince also has that horny song "Get Off" that I really really love during his his butt ashless chaps phase. Like, you know that phase? That song is really really good. It's by Prince and the New Power Generation, I think. That's
Yes.
one of my favorite songs. But yeah, like, so he's singing that on a tricycle. She's getting mad at him because he doesn't have any more food, and I can see why he's kind of annoyed, because she is kind of like, what is cute and her, like, what is cute on the ground level where she was talking about, like, oh, he made my steak in the shape of a heart, and oh, like, I'll miss you more, like, cute stuff in the light of day is really annoying when it's like, how come you won't do this for me and open this can? Like, I'm whining right now. Let me sleep on the more comfortable side of this bed.
I think it's very important, like, because it shows the immaturity of them, and like doing like a lot of stuff. I do think it's important to show affection. I do think it's important to put your partner above yourself, because that's like the way of being able to show that you love that person. However, you're absolutely right. Like, sometimes when you do that superficial stuff and then you are requesting it, that's when it becomes really shitty. And then you're like, this is not me doing this because I love you. This is now, oh, you expect this to happen. And that is always like my biggest, like, no go, stop. We got to stop this. Like, and I, like I said, the woman I was talking to when I was in high school, and we had broken up, and this is someone I would go to school every day with and everything, and she was just like, she did the thing where, like, she asked me to take her to the prom, but it wasn't like, hey, you want to go to prom? It's like, oh, hey, you're taking me to the prom. And, like, I was just like, no, I'm not doing that. But, like, that's my biggest pet peeve. I don't like being told. Like, I want to do something, that's what I want to do. But as soon as you're like, you have to do this, nah, we done. This is done. We're over.
Well, that just reminds me of, like, so I had an abusive partner, and I remember once for Christmas when I knew we should have broken up, I asked him for this necklace that I really, really wanted for my birthday, and it was, like, this beautiful little, like, it was, like, a little bauble thing. Like, I really love long necklaces with, like, kind of look brassy, so, like, I asked him for it, and on my birthday rolls around, and I see a jewelry box, and so I open it up, and it's not the necklace. And I look at him, and he tells me, oh, yeah, I like this necklace more. And, like, that's when I knew, like, it's that type of thing where it's just, like, yeah, like, that's what this whole thing reminded me of. Like, it's, like, it's just so weird to me right now. Like, because she's not being cruel to him. She's just being bratty, I guess is the word I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But I also love when, there's that Will's bit of acting when she like the absolute beauty of her acting when she's ripping off her own fingernails was the best scene I've ever seen in anything, because she's like, here so it's just like like 4 times she pops them off and hands them to him, and he just like is just disgusted and throws them onto the floor. Yeah. That is like, if anything should have won them an Emmy. That scene, it was just comedy gold. I just love that scene. But I also love the scene where she's getting pissed off with him about the stupid breath mints, and then she says, "If you say breath mints again, I'm gonna scream." And then he keeps taunting her, and then they cut to the living room. They cut to the kitchen where Aunt Viv and Uncle Phil have just arrived, and you hear her scream. I just love that cut. It's one of my favorite cuts in the show. And then you hear, well, like, your mom sucks breath mints too.
But it's just so, and it's like I said, I think duality of seeing like Phil and Vivian, who've been kind of sniffing at each other a little bit, but it's like an ultimate, like, just an adult conversation. And then you see the inverse of, like, Kathleen and Will kind of doing, like, this thing where they're such in love with each other, so infatuated with each other, but then when they get a little bit of adversity, then they want to, like, turn each other to the wolves. They fall apart,
yeah.
I think it's really good juxtaposition for them.
Yeah, that's something I would like that you bring it up now. It's obvious, like, because you can often get the feeling that Will and Kathleen are probably like, oh, we're never gonna end up like Uncle Phil and Aunt Viv, who are just like sniping at each other. And then when they're faced with the potential of them being hurt, the first thing, like, okay, there's a good juxtaposition of the scene where the earthquake starts, and the first thing Uncle Phil does is he grabs Vivian to him and holds himself over her so that if something falls, it'll fall on him, not her. And the first thing that Will does when it hits, when the earthquake hits, is he's just standing there holding Kathleen away from him. And I'm like, I just love that. Like, it just shows, like, where they are in their relationships. Because I don't know, like, the only people I would probably cover would be my nephew. Maybe no, for sure I would cover my sister. Right. And, like, it just shows, like, who you are in the dark, basically, is that scene. And the first thing Phil does is shield his wife from possibly being hurt. And I just love that little bit of acting. It's really cool. Right.
No, it's definitely, like I said, it's such really just... really, really good. Really, really good acting. Just, I mean, and that's the great thing we see about this season is like we just have so many really good actors in their, in their own, like getting into their own, including the main staff. Like it's just such a really strong season.
Yeah, and I just love where Will is realizing that Will is not so angry about possibly becoming Uncle Phil. Right. Like, there's a scene where he and Kathleen finally reach an agreement where they're like, okay, maybe we were going a little bit fast. And so, he mentions that, like, Uncle Phil was right. And then he's like, oh, listen to me. I'm starting to sound like my Uncle Phil. Next thing I'm going to wake up bald and hungry. I just love that. It's like, because it's such a kid thing to say, where he realizes that he's acting like his dad. And I just love this. This episode is a really cute start to the season, and I can see why it's so... beloved, just because it's so funny, and everybody remembers that scene of Will sitting on the trike with Kathleen's hair over his eye. That's such a good scene.
Yeah, it's just such a fun episode. I think that's like where last season there were so many like heady, like this is an important episode. Like what I love about this season is this is just a fun season. And it starts off with a very fun episode.
There's still pretty, heavy episodes thrown in, but it's still pretty, it just lets them be silly and fun and, just doing dumb stuff. There's an episode where Jazz has to take over for Jeffrey to pull his weight. Right. And he's wearing Jeffrey's uniform, but it's, kind of has some jazz bits in it. It's they're allowed to be fun while still being what do they call those? A very special episodes. And even the very special episodes are funny too. In the episode I'm thinking about where they have Marge, their former civil rights friend, who's still in the struggle. There's a scene that I didn't get until recently when I was rewatching it, where Ashley's wearing a dashiki and threatening to spray paint her demands on the pool house lawn, where Will calls her Winnie the Pooh Mandela. Yeah. I didn't get that until I was older. And I was just like, okay, I get it now. But yeah, I think the show's finally the show, if it hasn't found hasn't found its footing, it's this season where it finds its footing. Right. No, for sure. But then we end the episode with Will and Kathleen being rescued from the basement.
Yeah. All in all, I think, and she goes off to call her family. But I think it's a very fun episode, and it kind of feels like it's definitely a bottle episode, like one of those bottle episodes. But it's just such a really good one. It didn't have to be this extravagant set build thing or this story. It's just kind of just looking at Will and Kathleen as people, and it's just such a strong episode. I don't know. I really, really love this episode.
Yeah, it's pretty fun. I'm probably going to go watch it again once we're done here, just because I love them in the basement and, them yelling at each other. Well, not even yelling at each other, just, sniping at each other about, where he's basically calling her ugly, and I hate that, because I'm like, dude, she was, she's still, a hot girl, with short hair.
But I think that's the guy go-to, you're like... I'm going to call you ugly because that's going to make me feel better.
Well, and I love the thing where she's making fun of his stupid teddy bear, and he's like, don't be dissing my bear. Well, don't be dissing my hair. So it's just, really, really cute. If you haven't watched it, go watch it right now because it's super fun.
Really fun episode. Absolutely really fun episode. All right. So, yeah, that was this episode, Season 2. It feels good to be back in the saddle, Sonya. Mm-hmm. Not gonna lie. Definitely feels good. Like we are breaking down episodes again. We are doing the show again. Like we're kind of back in it, and that's like I don't know. I feel very excited about this season.
Me too. Like some of my favorite episodes are in this season, so like I'm really excited for the Sonya Lamore episode with Zaza Gabor. The episode with Marge, the civil rights activist. I think this season's the one with Belle Biv DeVoe as well.
Yes,
like I think this is
and I cannot wait. Like that's I'm going to reach out to our good friend Rihanna. I think that's when we definitely have to get her. We definitely have to get her in there for that because I think that's like. I
think that's episode 20. I'm not sure. It's a little further into the season.
No, 20 is those are the days, but we'll figure it out. But I definitely want to. I definitely want to get that one. Hold on, I'm actually going to find this out right now. Let's see. Come look at season 2. That's 5. That's another family episode. I will cut all of this out. Let's see. Episode 11. Something for it's the butler did it.
Okay, that's gonna be quite fun to watch.
That's gonna be quite fun. So yeah, definitely want to get that. No, yeah. This has of course been our fantastic show, Live from the Full House. Sonya, is there anything you would like to promote?
Just the normal channels, Twitter, honey_child, Sonya Ballantyne is also a Twitter I use. That's more my business account. Follow me on Instagram at Sonya_Ballantyne and like me on Facebook. I'm not updating there as much as I should be, but I think that's where, just because I keep getting Facebook requests, friend requests, and I can't, I want to keep that part of, as private as Facebook can be. So I usually use this Facebook for family and friends. So, follow me on there if you really want to keep in touch.
Yes, you can do the same. I'm at Travis L. Foster on Twitter. I am at Turbo Bison on Twitch and Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook at TL Foster, dot Foster. My public page. That's my page where you can go and link up to. I don't do friend requests anymore. My personal Facebook is literally the people I know. Honestly, if you want the best representation of me, Twitter's where it's at. That's where I'm usually just myself. If you go to my Facebook, you're just get if I say something, it's something that I have very strongly curated and looked over through, so I know I don't have to hear no wild shit from my family. That's literally what that is. So you don't even want to be a part of that. If you want the fresh, real me, Travis L. Foster on Twitter. You can follow the show at Pool House Live on Twitter. You can go to patreon.com/Live from the Pool House, where we will have episodes a week early. So if you have been there with the $5 level, you have already heard this the week of our recording this, and it's Christmas. So Merry Christmas. If not, hey, hear next week's episode today if you go over there to there. And then I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Me and Sonya have really good ideas, really big plans we want to do for Patreon to make your Patreon dollars worth it, right? So we've been kicking around some kind of podcasting ideas. I told Sonya I have not seen the hit series. What was the basketball movie? High School Musical. High School Musical. And I thought it'd be really cool if we looked over the High School Musical movies. Because she said she hadn't seen it either. We're old. We're not just old, but we're generationally old, because High School Musical is for old people watched, but we were too old for that. And then
exactly.
There's other stuff I want to talk to Sonya about. We've talked about our love for Power Rangers, so we would love to do a Power Ranger show.
Oh yeah, I also have been approaching TL about doing a Star Wars episode. I probably would want to bring on my friend Kira Davies, who is also a big Star Wars nerd and a Korean adoptee. So I just want to talk about how I just want to talk about the person of color aspects of that story, which is kind of funny because it's like the Skywalker story, right? So how can you talk about people of color in that story? But you would be surprised. So let us know if you want to hear stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I would be really interested in doing it.
No, I definitely would love to do that. And then, what was the other thing I wanted? Like, I definitely, because we've had Kim on a tremendous amount, but I would love to talk to her about comics. And I've been trying to get Sonya to watch the Young Justice and us record something about it.
Oh, I still gotta watch the Michael Jordan documentary too.
Let's do have that to one. Watch that one, absolutely. All right, but so look for us. We're going to be doing big things this year. It's a brand new year, new us, new year, new you.
No COVID, please.
No more COVID, please. I want to go to these weddings. I have weddings I got to go to, so I can't wait for that. So for Sonya Ballantyne, I am TL Foster. This is, of course, been live from the pool house. And guess what? It's a new season, but the ending still stays the same. Do not get thrown out like jazz.